Har du nogensinde undret dig over, hvor man bygger de mest avancerede rumfartøjer og satellitter? Se med her. Jeg havde lige spist morgenmad og var på vej ind i mit hotelværelse for at gøre mig klar. Og da jeg så endelig var klar, så gik jeg hen mod ESA, deres Airbus-site i Bremen. Og der fandt jeg det endelig. Jeg står nu inde ved Airbus her i Bremen i Tyskland. Jeg har fået mit badge. Følg med i den her vlog, hvis I vil se mere. Og jeg glæder mig til at give den gas. Jeg fik så også endnu et badge. Nu bliver vi shuttled hele vejen, altså hentet med en bus og kørt. Så ja, følg med. Og her der kan I se vores shuttlebus. Jeg blev kørt i sådan cirka 10 minutter.
Welcome to our wonderful space lab.
Stedet var helt surrealistisk. Jeg fik også rigtig mange badges til samling. Og her der blev der vist en lille video, hvordan NASA og ESA de sådan arbejder på Artemis-missionerne. Og her sidder jeg sammen med nogle tyske journalister. YouTuber from Denmark.
We have Mark Steckling, Head of Space Exploration at Airbus. We have Philip Delon, ESA ESM Program Manager.
Vi skal ind og se noget, der hedder Space Lab. Følg mig.
You have a lot of stickers on your shirt.
Yes, I do. Det ser sådan her ud, når man er oppe i rummet. Ja, det er et Space Lab. Det man kan se, det er et laboratorium oppe i rummet, og det er virkelig, virkelig interessant at se det, fordi jeg har kun set det på billeder og videoer, men at se det i virkeligheden, det er ret surrealistisk. De her Space Labs, de kan faktisk genbruges, og det er et laboratorium, som er udviklet af European Space Agency. Det her, man ser, hvor astronauterne de arbejder, og de er sådan, de færdes rundt i. Og så skulle jeg gøre mig klar til at interviewe forskere og ingeniører, som står bag de her rummissioner. Antoine, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Maria.
Can you introduce yourself?
So I am Antoine Alouani, I'm working for Airbus. I am in charge of the whole propulsion system of the Orion European Service module, particularly for the number 3, Artemis number 3, where we had a lot of changes, and the one who will bring the first female astronauts back on the moon surface.
It's so exciting, everything about the Artemis mission and how it also succeeded. What was your first thought when the mission accomplished and everything was fine? How did you feel?
My first feeling was relief, because as you can imagine, propulsion is one of the hardest things to master, and we are about 80% of the whole ESM in terms of mass, cost, and also in terms of problems. And so to see that everything works so perfectly, like a Swiss clock, that we also performed beyond expectations with like 15 to 20% propellant leftovers, it was for us like a great satisfaction, and we say, oh, okay, yes, now we can put really astronauts on top of this big boom thing.
You feel like this has given you more confidence for the future space missions you're going to do?
Particularly when you need to work with NASA as well, which is also another level of expectations and another way of working.
Yeah.
And so the technical challenges that we have to face on ESM3 are big, because we change many parts on the propulsion system to upgrade it, to make it more reliable and more performant.
How is it like to see from an idea point of view to suddenly it's a reality, it's going to happen? How is it for you?
So it is for me, every time I see a piece of hardware which is coming to the clean room and I need to go there because there is a problem, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work or whatever, this is always kind of a magic, like, oh wow, this is happening for real, right? Because I spend most of my time in front of the computer or in front of the drawings, doing equations and so on, and suddenly I'm confronted to something physically which is existing. And this is making it not only an idea, oh wow, we go on the moon. No, this is something really tangible. I can touch it, I will test it this year, and I will deliver this ship to the US very soon.
Do you believe in extraterrestrial life?
Yes, I do. I believe. From a rational point of view, right? If you count how many stars we have just in our galaxies,
exactly,
and how many planets statistically can just turn around one stars at a time, most probably life on Earth didn't appear on Earth itself. Most probably it came from a meteorite that brought us the bricks of life. Just the logics.
That's good. Already
So with these two facts, you have more reasons to think that there is life somewhere else than there is not.
Yeah, exactly.
However, to find it, it will be very hard.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this. I also think that there could be another life form than just us. But I really hope that one day we will find out, and hopefully I'll be alive to witness it also.
Yes.
I would love to. And because of you, we are able to have engineers like you and people like you to tell us how to do these missions and how to explore further more. If you could say something to a young kid who also wanted to do what you're doing right now, what would you say to him or her?
So I would tell him, believe in your dreams, really believe in them. And in the space industry, there is nothing which is too big. There is no limit. So if you are, let's say, passionate enough to do all your studies and so on, and if you get through that business, we have paved the path for you because we have been on the moon and you will be the one to go on the Mars. Not that bad, right?
Not that bad. I like it. I like the energy you have there.
Thank you.
Vi var cirka 5 videnskabsinfluencer fra Europa, som blev inviteret til NASA's og ESA's event. Siân, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name's Siân Cleaver and I am the Industrial Manager for the Orion European Service Module project.
What is it that you do?
Yes, so my role is really, and there's kind of two sides to it. On the one hand, I'm in charge of making sure that all the equipment that we need so that we can build our European Service Module, I need to make sure that that all arrives on time so that we can integrate it according to our plan. And then on the other side, I am constantly talking with AIT, so Assembly, Integration and Test, the people who are actually putting this thing together. And my job is to make sure, okay, is there anything that you need? Is there anything you're missing? And if there are any, ad hoc little issues like that, jumping on them and making sure that we find a solution so that we're never held up waiting for things in our team.
What is it that inspired you to do this?
When I was younger, I was just fascinated by space. And nobody ever told me that I couldn't be fascinated by space. So that's what I pursued. I really wanted to be an astronaut when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I always had that goal in mind. So every decision I made, the subjects to study, the university to go to, the career that I chose was all guided by the fact that I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, over time it evolved into, I want to work in the space industry. So that was really my driving factor for every decision I made.
Well, that's really, really inspiring to hear, and also because we need more people like you, more role models. What is the most challenging about your job?
So, challenging. Well, at the moment we've got multiple ESMs in parallel, and I'm responsible for all of those.
Okay.
So you can imagine the amount of equipment that we have just on one ESM, and then you multiply that up for all the other ESMs. There's so much stuff to be thinking about, right down to the tiny little items up to the big things as well, like subsystems. So for me, it's a challenge sometimes keeping on top of what's going on exactly on each module, and talking about it in the right way, making sure that we communicate effectively. No, I'm talking about this module and this issue. Let's, switch our brains onto that topic. That kind of thing is challenging.
You really have to be strict and you have to think straight and you don't have time to hesitate. What is the fun part of your job? Like, what is it that you enjoy the most about this?
So, I mean, maybe it sounds obvious, but delivery days for me. So we've delivered 2 European service modules now to the US, and what happens is a big aircraft lands at the little tiny Bremen airport right out the back of our offices, and then we all get to watch and see, and our spacecraft gets loaded onto that aircraft and then flown to the States. And that for us is a huge milestone. It's the end of our sort of job here in Bremen, because then it's handed over to our friends NASA in the States, and that is a huge celebration every time. But then of course the launch as well. I mean, the Artemis 1 launch last November was just the icing on the cake.
But also to think about that, you, Siân, you had an impact on this, and the work you do is affecting our future space mission.
Yeah, so obviously it's helpful if you're interested in the STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering and maths. If you've got the opportunities to study those subjects, study them. But then that's not to say that you have to be perfect at them. I mean, I chose to go to university, but there are apprenticeships, especially at companies like Airbus, but probably at many of our subcontractors, they will take apprentices and teach you how to build a spacecraft, essentially, which is also really, really cool.
One final question. Do you believe in UFOs?
UFOs, I'm a little skeptical. Extraterrestrial life, I mean, think about how big the universe is. There's got to be something out there. Whether it's intelligent, I don't know. I would possibly speculate yes, given the enormity of the universe and just statistics. Yeah. But I think in our lifetimes we're more likely to find evidence of life on a sort of microbial scale or you know, something relatively underdeveloped. But I mean, who knows? The universe is just too mysterious. We possibly will never know in our lifetimes.
What is it that you envision to accomplish with this mission?
With the important is the Artemis 2 mission will be the first mission to bring an astronaut back in the moon orbit. While the third one, and that's an ESM which we have here in Bremen in the clean room, we're currently integrating, will bring the first woman and the first man back to the moon.
How did you feel when Artemis 1 succeeded, when you saw that the mission went well and everything was okay? What was your first thought that came to mind?
So I can tell you the night before the launch I had really a bad night because there was a lot of pressure on all of our shoulders, right? So the team was working hard over years, and then the launch were coming, and as soon as the SLS lifted off, of course, we knew now it's our job that the spacecraft has to work. And it was really, really great at the beginning to get all this experience. So our team were in Houston on console with the ESA and the US, the NASA team. And it was great every day to see how good the hardware is performing, so the entire vehicle is performing.
Wouldn't you say that this, with the Artemis 1, it has given you guys more confidence for Artemis 2?
For sure. So in terms of the confidence, so we learned a lot on the way to get Artemis, first of all, on the launch pad and then running through the mission, because also the mission was something very new for us. We basically are engineers, we're designing the spacecraft, and then on the other side we have to support the mission to operate that spacecraft. And we learned basically afterwards how to operate our own hardware. That was quite nice and quite interesting.
Do you believe that there are extraterrestrial life in outer space?
I personally believe yes. It will be. It's somewhere out there. We have not seen it. Maybe it's not that far away. Maybe it's very far away. Yes, answer is yes. I believe in that.
Jeg står lige her, hvor jeg har interviewet Matthias Gronowski, og jeg skal over og interviewe den næste person lige her om lidt. Så ja, det bliver spændende. Endelig blev det tid til at besøge deres clean room. Vi skulle klæde os om, og der var nogle spændende steder, vi måtte filme. Se med her.
It's a brand new creation sun, as I told you earlier. It's now the first weeks and months of this assembly line.
Den første kommende astronaut hedder Pablo, og han er lige blevet udvalgt af ESA og skal trænes op nu. I always wondered, why is it that astronauts train underwater?
Well, basically because it's the only way where you can feel weightless.
It's zero gravity.
It's not exactly the same because of course you still have a fluid around you, and in space you don't have anything. But it's to simulate the extravehicular activities. So you put on this suit. It weighs around 350 kilograms. So you have to use a crane and the help of many people. Of course, in space it is weightless, so it's completely different. And then what you do is you go down there in the water and it floats, and basically it floats, but it doesn't float. You go in the middle, but you have the buoyancy necessary to keep you in the middle and practice.
Okay. I was also wondering if you could talk to some kids. What would you say to them if they want to become an astronaut? How would you inspire them?
Well, I will tell them to follow the dreams and chase it. Nothing is impossible, and I'm the living proof of it. But at the same time, I would like to tell them that nothing comes without effort and patience.
Exactly.
So, especially nowadays, we are used to get everything immediately.
Yeah.
Like, you want something, you go online, you get it, you buy it, you have it in hours. It doesn't work with this. You need to have patience and perseverance.
One last question. I have asked this to everyone. Do you believe in extraterrestrial lives?
Well, the universe is immense.
Yeah.
Like Carl Sagan once said that there are more stars in the universe, the grains of sand in every single Earth beach. So, yes, of course there will be something, but the distances and the time needed is so big that it's very hard to even notice anything. We haven't even started looking at it, but it's just a matter of statistics. It's very unlikely that life has evolved only in Earth because the universe is immense.
If you go to space one day and you see an UFO, call me. I want to know.
I'll do it. I promise.
Thank you so much.
No one will believe me then.
We will believe you. Så fik vi lavet det første interview med den ene kommende astronaut, og nu skal vi interviewe en astronaut, der har været oppe i rummet og har været ude i de her rummissioner. Det her det er en meget kendt astronaut, som arbejder for ESA. Han har været ude ved ISS rigtig mange gange, så den internationale rumstation. Han er så hernede på jorden nu. Og jeg skal i dag stille ham jeres spørgsmål, som I fik sendt ind til mig. Så håber jeg på, at han kan svare på nogle af dem. How is it to live in space versus living on Earth?
Oh, living in space is amazing, especially when you come to space for the first time. Everything is new, everything is weird. You float, you have to sleep while floating. You have to go to the bathroom while floating. Everything is a little bit, you have to learn all this. And then after a while, you actually realize you're getting used to it. It's actually becoming a normal feeling in a way. I spent a year in space in total, and so to me, space feels like my second home. But what I also remember is that at the end of each mission, I was really looking forward to coming home to this planet. And I really don't mean home to only my hometown, my family. Of course, I miss them a lot. But I also mean coming home to this planet. Because when you're out there in space, you realize all those things that we take for granted, like, the hearing the wind brush through trees, running in the forest, being on the beach, feeling the sand under my bare feet. Everything like that is not possible in space. It just doesn't exist.
It sounds also surreal to live like in space, and it's a different life, a different environment, and you have to adapt. How did you, the first time you flew up to space, how did you do the adaptation? Was it hard for you?
Well, it happens in a way by itself. You come up there and all of a sudden everything feels weird. In the very first moments in weightlessness, you get this feeling that you tumble forward and you have to sort of let your gyros in your ears spin down and get your bearing, and then you stabilize and you realize, okay, it's not that bad. And then the next thing happens and the blood rushes into your head, you get a puffy face, and so there's a lot of things that adapt, and they all go at different speeds. Right. So after a few hours in weightlessness, you can already sort of get your orientation, you can work, but you still don't feel too great because your stomach feels like it pushes everything up. So it's you don't want to eat at first, and it just feels a little bit awkward. Okay. And then you get used to that, and then after day one, that works.
I have a question from my followers, and one of them asked, how did you choose to become an astronaut? Was it always something you just decided to do, or?
Well, first of all, it wasn't me who decided, right? The European Space Agency selected me. I was one in about 10,000 applicants. So I just gave it one chance. I said I need to give it a serious chance. I need to put everything I have in it so I can bail out when they kick me out, and then be happy with it and then just go on with my life. But then they selected me, and I'm like, oh wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was really, really surprised when they selected me. And then I just decided, okay, that's the best life I could think of. That's the best job I could think of, so let's do it.
One last question. I have asked this to everyone. Do you believe in extraterrestrial lives?
Well, I don't know, honestly. I'm a scientist, so it really doesn't matter what I believe or not. I want to find out. And, you know, those are the reasons why we want to go to Mars. Because Mars is the next best place where we can potentially find forms of life that existed in the past, or maybe even are alive now. It's relatively unlikely that they're alive now, but it's possible. But even if we find fossil life on Mars that might have come from Earth, or came to existence independently from Earth, that means both reasons mean that potentially there's way more life out there in the universe. And to me, that's a much more powerful thought, is to find evidence for it or indications how it could be, right? So that would be amazing to learn from Mars, and that could happen in your and my lifetime, that we answer that question. That's way better than just believing it based on nothing.
Jeg nåede ikke at lave en outro desværre, men håber, at I nåede at se den her video. Husk at lægge en kommentar og like og subscribe, og så ses vi næste gang. Tak fordi du ser med.